Next we have Aline Rossi. Aline is a Portugal-based Brazilian activist where she participates in the organisation of the International Women's Strike, the abolitionist collective Generação Abolição Portugal, and the anti-fascist movement. She has been writing and translating feminist articles, theory and books into Portuguese for 3 years in her blog, Feminismo con Classe.
Thank you. I think most of the things I'll be saying here today might be like yesterday news for some of you, but when I first submitted this paper, I was thinking about the questions our sister Sarah raised earlier today. I was thinking about how can, I don't know, how do communists have a clear idea about how they are going to do their revolution and we don't have one? How do we fight back? And how do we do this revolution? So, I'm not an English speaker, okay? So you have to bear with me and say just ask me if I say something weird. And sometimes I have to recur to my phone. That's it. So, I'll be making 3 points here today. One is that we need to be strategically everywhere, not only individually, nor organically everywhere. And 2 is that we need to organize the women's movement in 3 levels: locally, nationally, and globally. And 3 is that it's not time to be isolated anymore. Why? Because different ways of acting, different ways of organizing means different ways of acting and different focus on what you are claiming. It is different if you're struggling from inside an NGO or inside a political party or inside a union or inside a grassroots collective. We have been there, we have been in trade unions and political parties from the very beginning of the working class movement. But we have been there mostly individually, not strategically. And we have been there because we are affected through all these conditions. This is pretty clear. So I'll try to clarify what I mean to be strategically everywhere. And in Lisbon, I helped to set a feminist collective called the Lisbon Feminist Assembly. And like many others grassroots collectives, we have many ideas about what we want to do, but we have no idea about how we are going to do, how we are going to transform our ideas into political changes. And we soon learned that we couldn't be everywhere and doing everything, and that we shouldn't even want to do that because we are not the saviors of the world, and we have no resources to do that. So we were born to subscribe the first international women's strike, and we didn't find support in any women organization in Portugal to do that. So we did it ourselves, and in 1 week, okay, it's not too much, okay? We took like 300 people to the streets. It was just a bunch of people, but as we had just 1 week and we are like a group of random women, never heard about women's strike, it was pretty much awesome. We are feeling like very revolutionary. So in the next year we want to make it bigger, and we start to work earlier. So we are holding book reading groups, public debates, open debates, move debates. People already knew we exist, but they still don't want to go. They don't want to come to work for our plans. We invited unions, we invite political parties, we invite collectives, but they wouldn't come because they saw us as a private thing. It was not an open space. There was no bridge, so they were not working for our plans. They were not going to do what we want to do. So it was in the meanwhile that we decided it was more strategical to be together with other movements. Like, I know it sounds obvious, but it wasn't obvious for us back then. One of our sisters joined the housing struggle, another one joined the climate change struggle, and so we are creating these bridges, okay? I myself was working with other organizations on the prostitution issues, showing as a speaker on Congress and seminars and debating. So the next year, we had 2,500 people in the street. I know it's still not much, but it was a nice growth rate, okay?
You mean people or women?
I mean people because it was not only women. And so 2 months later, we were invited by the Spanish sisters to take part in a feminist camp in Spain. It was the national campaign to evaluate the past M8, the past women's strike, and to organize the next one. So we go, okay, we did. And when we were there, we found out another 3 women from Portugal, from the north of Portugal. We were from the south, and we didn't know they would go. We took part on the task force, we listened to the discussions, we just watch and learn, and that's it. And why I mentioned this camping is because when we were there, an insightful discussion took place. So in the beginning, they were lining up in pairs to report about the women striking their cities, like 2 women reporting about Madrid and 2 women reporting about Barcelona. And when they were done, some women tried to present again, but now on behalf of their personal organizations, not as a regional nucleus of the women's strike, of the women's movement. They want to speak on behalf of their parties, on behalf of their unions. And it was a chaos. The women in there started to say, oh, no, this is not a place for doing that. And by that, I probably mean propaganda. Okay, you should not speak as a party, or you should not speak as a union, because we are here as the women's movement. We are here to speak as the feminist movement. We should seek and organize and discuss within ourselves, and they should endorse our agenda, or feminist agenda, not to bring their own agenda onto the women's table. So this is what I mean when I say that we need to be strategically everywhere, because women in there were from different backgrounds. So I will get it deeper into this. Okay, so we went back to Portugal, and we were very decided to replicate what we saw. So we came back and we called everyone, political parties, unions, everybody. We formed a national network. We convened a national assembly, and now everybody really came, because it was not the Lisbon Feminist Assembly, it was a national network. And we start to organize in like this. We had the national articulation, and we had regional nucleus, and inside the regional nucleus we have task force. So that year, women, let me try to make it more clear. Of course, inside the national organization and the regional nucleus, there was women who were from political parties, from trade unions, from grassroots collectives, associations. So every woman in the organization had the responsibility to take our goal, which was to build the women's strike, to their organizations, into their organizations. So women who were organizing political parties had the responsibility to pressure their political parties to endorse the women's strike. Women who were organized in the union should pressure their boards to convene the strike. That year, we had 5 warning strikes, mainly from high feminized roles and sectors, and we had 30,000 people in the street. That was pretty awesome. So, let me localize myself. And that's what I mean when I say we need to be strategically everywhere, because we need to fight as feminists, as someone who is organizing a movement, not someone who is organized, who is there individually and coincidentally is also in a political party, in a union, because this is not enough. We have been there from the very beginning, and this is not enough. And we need to create this bridge to enable us to act as a lobby. Otherwise, and then talking about the women on the basis, because this is to work globally. It's easier if you are on an institution, right? Because you have funds. But if you are on the basis, on the grassroots collectives, you're organizing masses and you are raising awareness, you don't have funds. So we need to create this bridge with other movements outside the feminist circles to enable us to lobby, to do political lobby. Otherwise, we will be forever raising awareness cyclically. And this is not enough, because you're just circulating ideas, but you're not turning them into real political changes. Because we live in this post-globalization moment where it's neoliberalism that is really globalized and not human rights, or oppression is globalized as a commodity. And we can see that on pornography, we can see that on prostitution, child marriage, trafficking, womb renting, caring labor. Then we need to organize accordingly, globally, not only locally. We need a movement that is locally specialized, because we need to be able to respond urgent needs. But we also need a movement that is able to act globally, because otherwise it won't be politically effective and neither liberating. We need to organize ourselves privately so we can speak to women's voice with the women's voice. But we should be able to work and to lobby into every structure that could give us power or to amplify our voices. We need to take the personal as political to the organizational level, not only in our analysis. And this is why I was saying that it's not reasonable to be isolated anymore, because women need to get, I'm sorry, it's not possible to be global and to be efficient while you are isolated. And we have different needs. We are affected in different spheres, on race, on class, on sex, sexuality. And you can answer these needs if you are not organized in different spheres. So my idea is we define within us, then we act within them. It's from the inside to the outside, not the other way around. This is what I have to say today. And I intend to make an invitation. In Portugal, we want to organize International Abolitionist March, but we just find out that the women in Spain is already organizing it, so it will be really, really wonderful if you join us. I know some of you here in the UK, you have the North model, right? And in Ireland too, in some other countries. We don't have in Portugal, we don't have in Spain yet, but we have another issues on this that we should tackle, like won't be renting, for example. And if you can join us to start this global organization, would be great. This will be a great start. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. What I find really exciting about this panel is its movement building. It's the movement building panel. And I remember the women's health movement of old, and we lost it, and it's really exciting to be talking about rebuilding that. And it's really exciting to be talking about organising outside the left. My goodness, I remember all that from the 1970s, all the conferences and meetings where all the women from the left stood up and did their little chants, and we desperately tried to shut them down. So it's really exciting to talk about these things now, all over again. It's fantastic.